Hello and welcome to another online Awaken sermon. And this one's coming to you straight from our kitchen table again. The weather hasn't really been cooperating too much, so here we are, back at the kitchen table. And the title of today's sermon is Finding Joy When Life's on Hold. There's this growing sense that I felt. I've actually spoken to a bunch of you this week, and it almost feels like for many of you, the weight of what we're going through, the weight of what's happening right now, it's starting to feel a bit heavier. And we're starting to settle into this new rhythm, this new way of being. In the beginning, there was this initial shock. There was all the scattered movement, the scattered motion of trying to figure things out. So can't work at the office anymore, have to figure out how to work from home. Kids can't go to school anymore, schools are closed. How do we do this whole distance learning thing? How do I help facilitate their learning while at home? How do I get them out of bed, at the table with their books open so that they can do their work? Or stocking up on supplies, making sure there's enough in the freezer, enough canned goods, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, which still are pretty scarce. They're still pretty hard to come by. So the beginning, we had this whole initial, oh my goodness, what's happening? How do we prepare ourselves? But now that we're settling into this, and now that we know it's going to last a little while longer, at least through the month of April, which is 4 more weeks, we're starting to feel the confinement. We're starting to feel as if the walls are closing in a bit more. And many of you expressed that concern, disappointment, that feeling this week in conversations that we've had. And I feel it too. More so this week, but starting a couple of weeks ago, there was this growing sense within me that life was on hold. That everything that we were looking forward to, everything that was on our calendars, the normal rhythms and routines that we're used to, it was all being put on hold for a season. And we were having to figure out a new way of being, a new way of organizing our lives. I remember a couple years back, we took a trip to the Philippines. And on the way to the Philippines, we had a layover at the Vancouver airport. And everyone who was on the plane had to get off the plane, even if you were going to continue on the plane for the second leg of it to Manila. So there were 2 lines once you were getting off. There was one for the people who Vancouver was their final destination, or they were transferring to another plane. And then there was the line for the people who were going to get back on the same exact plane for the second part of the flight. Now, we were going to continue on that exact plane, so we were on that second line. And after we got through the tunnel, it opened up into this, I'm going to call it a rectangular box, which was basically a room which acted as a jail cell, or at least that's what it felt like for us. You walked into this room, which was basically the terminal where you would wait for your flight, to board the flight. But yet this room was walled off. So there were 3 solid walls, and then directly in front of you when you came out of the tunnel, there was a 6-foot tall plexiglass wall that prevented you from walking out, leaving that terminal, and going off into the hallway and into the rest of the airport. Now, in this rectangular box, there were 2 restrooms and there were 2 vending machines. The vending machines, I don't even want to know how much money those vending machines took of mine. Me continuing to try and get food out and be completely unsuccessful each time. So we were trapped in this room with awful vending machines, a bathroom, and a couple of seats. We were probably in this room, I would say, 1 to 2 hours waiting for the flight to take off again. And the thing that made this even worse was you had this glass wall in front of you that you could see through and you could see over. And right on the other side was the hallway leading to all the restaurants, the shops, all the places where you normally could pass the time if you had a layover. And all of us were just so frustrated at that situation. I know personally, I was expecting to get out, get some real food, not vending machine food, walk around some of the shops, look around, look at the books, the magazines, see what snacks they had. And here we were confined to a rectangular box for more than an hour. Yeah, that's kind of what life feels like now. To a certain extent, it feels like we are being confined in a rectangular box, and the hallway leading to the rest of our lives, we can see it, it's there, but we're not able to access it. And that's sort of the feeling that I've been having for the past couple of weeks. Maybe you've been feeling this too. This overwhelming sense that life right now is on hold. And I put together a list of things that I've witnessed to be on hold during this time. The first one, haircuts. Anyone else, you're way overdue for a haircut and you're not sure when it's going to happen. This came in the mail this morning. Scissors, hair cutting scissors. Steph has given up on continuing to grow her hair and says, I am going to try to cut my hair. So these scissors came this morning, and I told her, let me see how your hair comes out before I let you touch mine. Probably will be one of the first stops once we are allowed back once life begins again. I got to go see Joe. What about this one? Hibachi restaurants. Sitting around that table with the food being prepared right in front of you, having vegetables just flipped into your mouth from across the table. What an experience. On hold for now, as is all in dining at restaurants. Can't even sit at a Starbucks coffee shop in the lobby and read a book, meet with a friend. All of it on hold. What about sharing a hug with a good friend, with a family member? You might be able to share a hug with those that you are sheltering in place with or staying at home with. But what about all the other friends, all the other people that you're used to seeing? And every time you see them, it's a massive hug that you share. That's on hold. Weddings are on hold. And the anticipation for your wedding day, the planning, the excitement, the countdown. I remember having a countdown for our wedding. And I think most times when you go onto wedding websites, there's a countdown. How many days left? Well, now that countdown has been extended indefinitely for lots of people. I know Steph's cousin had a wedding planned for the beginning of May, and that one's been postponed. It's been pushed back. All of the planning, the excitement, this is going to be a celebration with all of our closest friends and family. Now it's not going to happen right away. Now, how about vacations? Was talking to a neighbor the other day. I ran across in the street, and she said that their family was planning a spring break vacation. That's now on hold. All the planning, eagerly looking forward to getting away with your family for a bit, not having to work. Now that's being pushed to the side for the time being. School trips. Lots of schools would take trips in the spring. So all the time with friends, getting away, exploring a new city, being away from your parents, your family, that's now postponed. As is graduations. Celebrating the achievement of graduating, high school, college, or what about even senior year? I remember for me, in high school and college, senior year just being an absolute blast. The last chance that you had to spend lots of good quality time with friends before you all went off and onto the next phase of life. Senior cut day, senior prank day, senior sports, your last year of spring sports. All of it indefinitely put on hold. Will it continue? Will it happen? It's a question we just don't have an answer for right now. What about family dinners? Easter comes up in a week, and we're now being told the Easter celebrations you've planned at church and then with your family, not going to take place. Some people go and they visit their family on specific holidays, Easter being one of those. And now that trip is going to have to be postponed, which I think if you can do Christmas in July, why can't you do Easter in July? Can't we just push the Easter celebration back a couple of months? The Easter family get-together. Can't we just push it back and say, hey, we're going to celebrate Easter together as a family in July? And then what about our social lives? In the month of April, I had 2 concerts and a play planned. And yes, it was going to those events, but it was also the time with friends as well. Friends that I hadn't seen, that I hadn't spent much time with in a couple of months. All of that being postponed. The emails just kept coming in. Hey, this is being canceled. This is going to be rescheduled. We don't know when it's going to be rescheduled for, but for right now, we just can't hold this event. Yeah, your April calendar, all the things that were planned, the things that were on it, whether from a few weeks prior or a few months prior, being postponed, canceled. And now your calendar, it's looking a bit sparse right now. Yeah, it really feels like life is on hold. And for a lot of us, it's starting to weigh on us a bit. It's beginning to steal our joy. It's beginning to steal the life from our souls. If you're a Harry Potter fan, there are these characters called Dementors. And what they do is they suck the very life out of people's souls. That's how it feels like for many of us. All the things that we've been looking forward to, all the life that we are used to experiencing, and it's slowly being drained away. So for us here now, knowing that we still have a couple of weeks of this left, how can we discover joy? How can we live from a place of joy? This has been a question that I've been asking of myself over the past few weeks, the past couple of days. How can I still be filled with joy in the midst of all that's going on? Because I believe joy is still available. And I believe that joy is still something that is accessible for all of us. It's just finding our way to that place. Last week, I had shared a part of Paul's letter to the church at Philippi. In the Bible, this book is known as Philippians. Ever since I shared that, I've been thinking so much about that book, about that letter, because to me, that letter is utterly fascinating. Paul writes this letter while he's in jail, which is the epitome of being confined. It's the epitome of having your freedom taken away, of not being able to go where you want, to do what you want to do. And for Paul, I guarantee you, in his 10-year plan, he didn't have spend a few months in jail. In the beginning of January, he didn't look out over the year and say, all right, well, by May, I'm hoping to spend a couple of weeks or months in jail. Yeah, this wasn't part of the plan. And so for Paul, here he is writing this letter to the church at Philippi, to the Philippians, and in the letter, the major theme of this letter, you know what it is? It's joy. It's joy. Now, I don't know about you, but prison, confinement, and joy, they don't really seem to go hand in hand. They seem to be complete opposites. When I think about prison, joy isn't the first thing that comes to my mind. But yet, for Paul, this is exactly what he was experiencing. Joy. In this small letter, he mentions the word joy or rejoice 16 times. There is this continual insistence on the joy that Paul has found, and this continual insistence that all the people that he's writing to, regardless of their circumstances, regardless of what they're going through, they can experience joy as well. Because Paul has tapped into a deeper joy, a joy that lies beneath the surface. I would suggest it's a divine joy that is available for all of us, no matter where we find ourselves, no matter what we find ourselves going through. So for us right now, when life's on hold, when life's on pause, how can we access that joy? How can we discover the joy that is literally all around us? So I put together 4 ways to experience, to discover, to find joy. 3 of them are Paul's from the book of Philippians, and one of them, it's mine. I've added it for you. The first way to experience joy, practice gratitude. Practice gratitude. This is something in talking with you this week. A few of you, you're already doing this. You're already practicing gratitude. And some are even taking it a bit further. Not only are you practicing gratitude yourself, but you're encouraging others to practice gratitude. And you're even checking in with them to see what are the things that they're grateful for. I know one of you told me that you were texting a friend on a regular basis. I think it was every single day, asking, all right, give me the things that you're grateful for today. I love how Paul begins the book of Philippians. He starts right at the beginning. I thank my God every time I remember you. The book begins with gratitude. It begins with rejoicing, with being thankful, with being grateful for the things that are in his life. And it continues all throughout. It doesn't just start and stop there. Rather, being thankful, being grateful, it continues throughout this entire letter. I think one of the ways in which we discover joy is we look around. We're very intentional about looking for the things that we're grateful for right now. A couple weeks back, at the beginning of January, I gave us all an invitation, and it was to write down on a note card this phrase, hashtag, it's all a gift. It's all a gift. And then whenever you came upon something during that week, something that you were acutely aware that what you were experiencing was a gift, you were to stop what you were doing, take out that note card, and then take a picture of you or whatever it was that was making you grateful with your hashtag, it's all a gift card. I think we need to bring that back. Some of you, maybe you still have those note cards. For others, maybe this is the first time you're hearing about this, or maybe you had set that to the side. Grab a note card, grab a Sharpie, and just write, it's all a gift. And whenever you're aware that the moment you're experiencing, that the thing that's right in front of you, when you are aware that that's a gift, snap a picture or write it in a notebook and keep a record. Maybe what you want to do, maybe the whole picture thing doesn't work for you, but maybe you want to keep a notebook with you, and throughout the day, whenever you're aware of something that's a gift, you just jot it down. Or maybe you want to set time at the end of the day before you go to sleep at night, just to mark down, to write all the things that you were grateful for in that day. Here's a couple. I put another list together. Here's a couple of things that oftentimes we simply take for granted. But maybe the thing to do right now, maybe the way in which we can discover joy is by not taking things for granted, but being extremely grateful for what we do have in this season. What about health? Health. Yeah, if you have your health right now, that is something to be grateful for, because everyone can't say that. Everyone can't say right now that they have their health. So if you're healthy, if you're breathing, yeah, it's something to be immensely grateful for. What about a job? The jobless report came out yesterday. Over 6 million people out of a job. If you have a job, if you're able to work from home, that is a luxury. That is something to be grateful for, because we don't all have that luxury. Or even, how about this one? Even just being able to work from home, being able to stay home, because there's many of us who we don't have that luxury. We're in, some of you, you're in essential services and you're out. Some of you, you're in healthcare and you're out every single day helping those who are sick. Or you're a grocer. You do other things. You work at a pharmacy. And so you have to be out and about. You have to be at work interacting with people on a regular basis. So if you can work from home, yeah, That's a gift. How about family? Family that you are staying with right now, family that is in your home or in your apartment, being able to spend this time with them. Or what about family across the country, across the world, that you can still talk with over the phone, through the internet, with a video chat? Yeah, having family, being able to connect. And I would even expand it to good friends that you can stay connected with during this time. That's a gift. What about witnessing acts of kindness? Someone a couple of weeks ago, we were talking and she said, hey, I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you about what happened this afternoon. One of our coworkers, and she's someone who is in healthcare, one of her coworkers went out to go pick up some donuts for work. And the donut shop found out that the donuts were going to be for people that worked in healthcare. And they said, hey, thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for what you're doing. We want to donate even more donuts for you. And she said it was just so amazing to experience and see their kindness. So yeah, how are you witnessing acts of kindness this week? What about if someone just sends you a text message or an email checking in saying, hey, just want to see how you're doing. Just want to see how things are for you. Are you doing okay? Do you have all that you need? If someone's just calling or texting to check in, yeah, be grateful for that friend. That is a good friend. That's a friend worth keeping. Now, what about shelter or heat? Having a home, an apartment, having a bed to lie down in each night, having heat to keep us warm. What a privilege. What a gift. A privilege we don't all have in this world. If you have that right now, man, that's a gift. Or what about food? Food. The ability to put food on your table for you and for your family. Yeah, that's a gift. That's a gift. Not everyone in the world, now or at any time, always has enough food on the table. So if you have food on your table each day and you're not going to bed hungry, man, that is something to be grateful for. So you come up with your list. What are all the things that you're grateful for? And you be very, very intentional about looking for those things throughout your day. And then I would say two things. You keep a notebook, you keep a list, and then you share it with someone. You share it with someone. Maybe it's someone who's in your home, maybe it's another good friend, and you say, hey, every Friday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to talk. And I want to hear what you've been grateful for, and I'm going to share the things that I've been grateful for. And then I would even take it a step further. I would actually say, whatever it is that you're recording, whatever you're putting down, things that you're grateful for, well, I think it's a great practice to continue indefinitely. But if you must stop at some point, keep that notebook and put it away someplace where you know exactly where it is. Because the truth is, more hardships will come your way later on in life. There's going to be some rainy days. There's going to be some bad days. And during those days, you're going to need some encouragement. You're going to need something to lift your spirits. And I would suggest that it's on those days you pull that notebook out and you look over all the things that you had been grateful for. Because what tends to happen is we go through a period like this when life's on hold, or we go through a period when things are really, really difficult. But then life gets back to normal. Life gets easier. And we tend to take those things like our health or food or shelter for granted. If you have a notebook and you can look through all these things that we often take for granted, man, on a bad day, that's something that could lift your spirits. That's something that can fill you with joy. Oh yeah, you know what? I have my health today. I have food on the table. Or even in the future, I have freedom to just go to the store and I don't have to worry about putting gloves on or Lysol wiping down the shopping cart before I get my groceries or when I bring them into the house. So I'd say the first way to access joy, practice gratitude. And then a second way to access joy, control what you can control. Control what you can control. There is a brilliant conversation that takes place in The Lord of the Rings between Frodo the Hobbit and Gandalf the Wizard. And Frodo is, I guess he's complaining. He's complaining a bit about this task, this job that's ahead of him. He thinks it's too difficult, too challenging. He wishes that he didn't have to actually do it. And so he says to Gandalf, he says, I wish it need not have happened in my time. Yeah, I'm sure that's a feeling for many of us right now. We wish that what we're going through hadn't occurred in our lifetime. Like Frodo, we wish it would happen to someone else in some other place. Oh, if only it could have stayed over there. If only it didn't come to us. If only other people had to experience this and we didn't have to actually walk through this. And what does Gandalf say? He says, so do I. And so do all who live to see such times. Yeah, it's natural. It's normal. When we go through something difficult, when we go through something that's uncomfortable, of course we wish it would happen to someone else in some other time. And he continues, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that's given us. What wisdom. All we have to decide is what to do with the time given us. In Paul's letter to the Philippians, Paul says it this way. In chapter 4, this is verse 11, he says, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in every situation. See, I think for Paul, and what Gandalf is getting at, the secret that Paul mentions is learning what you can control and what you can't control. Because there's some things right now, we're trying to control them. And I get it. I do this all the time. But it's just making us more and more anxious or miserable because the truth is we can't control those things. So the secret is control only that which you can control. Here's another list. What can't you control? You can't control how long this lasts. Will this go to the end of April or will this go longer? I don't know. I wish I could tell you. I wish someone had the answer, but the truth is no one knows. No one knows. And none of us can control that. None of us can make it go any quicker. We can't control when it's okay to gather again. Yeah, we don't know when this ban on meeting in large groups will lift. We don't know. Can't control it. You actually can't control if you get sick or not. Even if you do everything you possibly can to be safe, even if you only go out for groceries, you could still get sick. One of Steph's friends just this past week, talking about how she ended up being sickened by the virus. She said that the only places that she's gone in the past couple of weeks, grocery store, that's it. And she was really, really careful, she said, yet she still got sick. You can't control if you get sick or not. You can take certain precautions, but you could still get sick. Here's another thing. You can't control how you feel about everything. This is what we've been talking about over the past 2 weeks. Everything that you're feeling, it's particular to you. It's individual to you, and it's totally okay. It's totally normal for you. You can't control how you feel. So don't compare yourself, your feelings, what you're going through to anyone else because they're not you and they don't have the same circumstances. They don't have the same situation that you do. You can't control how you feel. So don't try to force yourself to feel a certain way. It's not going to help. But here's a couple things that you can control. You can control how present you are. You can control how present you are to your family, to your friends, and to yourself. You can control how present, how kind, how patient, how full of grace you are to the people who are living in the same home with you right now. Which, I mean, come on, we all need a little extra patience right now. We all could use a little extra grace. You can also control how present you are to your friends. You can control reaching out, sending that message, asking, hey, how you doing? Need anything? Want to talk? You can also control how present you are to yourself. You can't control how you feel about things, but you can control how present and aware you are to what you're feeling, so that you can then respond in a healthy way rather than reacting in unhealthy ways. The more present you are to yourself, the more present you are to your feelings, your emotions, the more you're going to be able to respond in healthy ways. Another thing that you can control is how much news you consume. Yeah, you can control if you leave the news on in the background the entire day. You can control whether or not your phone gets all those notifications, those breaking news updates. You can also control when it is that you consume the news. Is looking at the news the first thing in the morning really a good thing for your soul? Is that necessarily going to bring you joy? What about right before you go to sleep? Is watching the news, watching all that's taking place right before you go to bed, is that really the best thing for your soul? Yeah, you can control how much news you consume and when you consume it. So the second way to find joy, distinguish between what you can't control, what's out of your hands, and what you actually can control during this time. And then here's a third way to access joy, perspective. Perspective. And it's the question, I had it somewhere here. I don't know. But it's the question, why are we doing this? Why are we allowing our lives to be disrupted? Why are we sacrificing some of our freedoms right now? Well, the answer is because we're trying to save lives. We're trying to save lives. If we can stay home, if we can stop the spread, if less people get sick with the virus, that means less people will die and our healthcare system will be less overwhelmed. It's already beyond max capacity. So if we sacrifice and if we help each other out by not going out, by staying confined to our homes, less people will get sick, more lives will be saved. So one of the things that we're learning right now, that we're seeing quite bold, something that we often forget or just take for granted, is how interconnected we all are. And Governor Cuomo, in one of his press conferences this week or last week, said, "What I do affects you, what you do affects me." Yeah, we often forget that. We neglect that truth, but right now we're seeing what I do, it really does affect others. It could have a devastating impact on the lives of others. Here's Paul, in Paul's own words. This is chapter 2 of Philippians. He says this: "Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others." There it is. It's not all about us. It's not all about us. Yeah, I get it. Right now, life is a big inconvenience. Yep. But we're doing it because we're trying to save lives. And that's why when I hear of churches that are continuing to meet, or pastors who say, we're going to defy whatever the government says, they can't tell us that we can't meet, it is beyond maddening. Because I believe the most Christian thing, the most Jesus-y thing that you can do right now is to stay home and not go out. Unless you're an essential worker. And then the most Jesus-y thing that you can do is you can go help those who are sick. Or you can provide a service for people. A service that is necessary for the flourishing, the continuing of life. But when churches say, we're not going to listen, what we do, our gathering, is more important than staying home, what a bad look for the church. What a bad look for the church. Love for our neighbor, one of the greatest commandments. I mean, love itself, it's the greatest commandment. And Jesus likened loving God to loving your neighbor as yourself. How do we love our neighbor right now in this time and what we're going through? We do everything we possibly can to ensure that fewer people get sick. So when we're wondering or when we're feeling overwhelmed, stop and remind yourself, why are we doing this? Because we're showing love. We're showing love for each other. And I think love is what this entire universe is based on. This entire universe is founded in love. So when we act in love, we are tapping into the divine force that holds everything together. We're tapping into that which makes us human. We're tapping into the truest part of who we are. So whenever you're wondering, wait, why am I doing this? Or when you're getting frustrated beyond end, remember, okay, I'm acting in love. I'm showing love. I'm caring for my neighbor. And in doing so, I'm accessing the truest nature of this universe. And I believe that is something that brings joy. Now, here's a fourth way to access joy. And this one is my own. I can't find any reference in Philippians for Paul talking about this. But I would say a fourth way to access joy, laugh. Laugh. You have to laugh. You can't take everything so serious right now. You need some time to just unplug, to decompress, to get away from the seriousness of it all. Last Saturday, it was the first day in a long time that I hadn't opened my computer to do any work. It was great. Much needed. It was a much needed rest. And Saturday afternoon, we discovered one of my favorite rock stars. He's in a band that I've been following since high school. He created this fake parody Instagram account called Chevy Mustang. And for the past few weeks, he has been putting up these ridiculous wannabe raps. It's like total white boy rap in a fake Russian accent. Totally a goof, doing it on purpose. And Saturday afternoon came across this account, and for the whole afternoon, we sat around together. Reese was painting on his easel. We put some good music on in the background, started scrolling through the Instagram account, watching all of his short video clips, and we just laughed. We just laughed for the whole afternoon. Didn't check the news at all. Just spent some time together and got away from everything. Yeah, that's what you need to do. You need to get away from it all. You need to get a couple of movies, get some comedies, put on some Adam Sandler. Whatever you have to do, something that makes you laugh. Call up one of your funniest friends, someone who can just nonstop crack jokes, and just say, hey, can you make me laugh for a while? Whatever. You have to get away. You can't take it all so serious. Yes, you need to take it seriously, but you need some breaks in there as well. So I would say a fourth way to access joy is to laugh. It's to laugh. So for me, I've been trying to put all these four things into practice, and I'm finding a bit more joy this week. I'm finding a bit more joy. And whenever I feel myself being weighed down, whenever I feel the heaviness start to creep in, try to remind myself, okay, what am I grateful for? All right, do I need to take a break from everything? Do I need to just get away, go for a walk, laugh a little bit? So my prayer for you this week is that you would discover joy. It's that you would access the divine joy that is flowing through this life. So may you discover the joy that is with you, regardless of any external circumstance. May you be a person who is grateful. May you not take anything for granted this week, but may you be intentional about looking for things that are a gift. The free gifts that are given. The gift of health or food or shelter. And in finding gratitude, may you discover joy in your soul. May you distinguish between those things that you can control and the things that you can't control. May you be reminded this week of why we are allowing our lives to be disrupted. May you find joy in showing love for your neighbor and for those who are a bit more vulnerable to this virus. And may you laugh. May you take the time to get away from all of it, to be a bit less serious for a time, so you can just laugh. And in doing so, may the heaviness lift. May any of the burdens that you're feeling closing in on you right now, may they begin to subside. And may you discover a lightness and a life that fills you with joy. May the grace and the peace of Christ be upon you this week. Amen.